Hi, my name is Tia, and I'm a psychology student at the University of New England, currently enrolled in sport and exercise psychology. In class, we've been having conversations around sport and exercise, its benefits, and how we can promote adherence in order to prolong the desired outcomes from exercising. So, first, I'm going to discuss with you the benefits of exercise and therefore why exercise adherence is important. Then I'll talk a bit about self-determination theory and how the theory can be used to promote exercise adherence. Now, exercise, of course, is so good for our physical well-being as humans. It does things like decreasing the risk of cardiovascular diseases and obesity, and even improves our quality of sleep. But exercise also has many psychological benefits that have come to light in recent times, and examples of this include improved mood, a decrease in anxiety and depression, and just an overall improved quality of life. So these are just a few of the many outcomes that result from exercising. However, regardless of the myriad of reasons to exercise, it is estimated that 65% of Australians are sedentary or have low levels of exercise. You see, the problem is not that people don't see why it's beneficial. The problem is that people don't adhere to the exercise for long enough to build habits or experience results that live up to their expectations. So how can we improve this? For so long, there has been a focus on convincing people that exercise is important and why it's important. But now the focus has to shift to adherence to exercise. And in doing this, I'd like to explore the theory of self-determination. So the self-determination theory was developed by motivational psychologists Edward D.C. and Richard Ryan with the help of hundreds of other psychologists over several decades. And the self-determination theory represents a broad framework of human motivation and development and wellness, and there are a couple of main components in understanding this theory. So the first component I want to discuss is motivation. It's so important to understand the two different types of motivation here, and the first type is autonomous motivation. Autonomous motivation is doing something with a real sense of enjoyment and value and volition, and it describes whatever you're doing when you're feeling a full sense of choice. And the other type is controlled motivation, and this is doing something purely in order to get a reward or avoid some type of punishment or doing it out of obligation. Things like that. Now, I want to point out here that there are again, two different types of autonomous motivation, and they are intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. So intrinsic motivation is purely just to do something because you find it interesting. You just love it, you find it enjoyable, and that's the only reason you do it. Now, extrinsic motivation has some of those aspects, but it's also doing something with it leading to a separable consequence. And this separable consequence can be internalized by people in such a way that they take it on as their own. And this is why extrinsic motivation falls under the umbrella of autonomous motivation. Now, when we talk about optimal wellness and optimal performance, they both really are greater with intrinsic autonomous motivation. So when you're doing something for the pure sense of enjoyment and value of doing that thing and for no other reason. So that's the first component of self-determination theory. The second component of the theory is this belief that humans have three basic innate psychological needs. And the idea is that these three needs need to be satisfied, they need to be met in order for optimal wellness, optimal well-being, optimal performance to follow. And these three psychological needs are autonomy, competence, and relatedness. So autonomy is that we as humans feel that we have choices. You know, we can self-determine what we're going to do and why we're going to do it. And this feeds into what we discussed earlier with autonomous motivation. Now, competence is to feel really effective and confident in whatever it is that you're doing. And finally, relatedness is just a sense of belonging. Whatever group or setting you're in, you feel like you belong. You care for others, they care for you, and it's just a real sense of place and a sense of belonging. So as I mentioned earlier, these three basic psychological needs must be met in order for optimal well-being, optimal performance, And if they're not met, then negative psychological consequences will follow. But when people feel a real sense of competence and a sense of relatedness and volition and choice, they will be autonomously motivated and positive consequences will follow. So the self-determination theory is all about optimal outcomes, whatever that means for the individual, whether that be to win a race or to adhere to going to the gym regularly. Whatever the intended outcome is, the self-determination theory can really be shaped and moulded in order to reach certain goals. So when we're discussing in the context of sport and exercise, what we need to do in order to promote adherence is to create circumstances for people where their basic psychological needs are met and supported, and then their optimal performance, their optimal wellness, well-being, and optimal outcomes can be achieved. So thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to discussing this topic further in my upcoming essay.